The night everything changed began with a kiss. Not a kiss of love, but a kiss of betrayal. And in that single moment, the fate of the world was sealed. What followed was not just an arrest, it was the beginning of the most painful, powerful journey ever told. And once it starts, there is no turning back. The silence of the night feels heavy, almost unnatural, as if the world itself knows something terrible is about to happen. Every shadow stretches longer, every breath feels slower, and deep in the darkness, footsteps begin to echo. This is not just another night. This is the night when loyalty will be tested, fear will take control, and truth will stand alone against power. Jesus stands calm, unshaken, even though everything around him is about to collapse. There is no panic in his eyes, no fear in his voice, only a quiet understanding, as if he has already accepted what is coming. But the ones around him, they are not ready. Not for this, not for what they are about to witness. Then suddenly, it happens. A figure steps forward from the crowd, a familiar face, a trusted friend, Judas. But tonight, there is something different about him. His movements are tense, his eyes avoid contact, and yet he walks straight toward Jesus. No words at first, just silence, a silence that says everything. And then, the kiss. In that moment, everything breaks. The soldiers move in instantly, surrounding Jesus, their weapons ready, their expressions cold. The disciples freeze. Confusion spreads like fire. This was not how it was supposed to happen. This was not the plan. Panic rises, and fear begins to take control. But Jesus, he does not resist. Instead, he steps forward, calm, steady, accepting. Even as hands grab him, even as voices shout, even as chaos erupts around him, he remains silent. It is this silence that makes everything more intense, because it is not weakness, it is strength, a strength no one there can understand. Peter cannot hold back. His fear turns into action, his loyalty turns into desperation, and in a single moment of impulse, he strikes. But even this act changes nothing. Because Jesus stops it. He doesn't fight. He doesn't run. He doesn't defend himself. He surrenders. And that is what makes this moment so powerful and so painful. Because everyone watching knows something is very wrong. But no one understands why it has to happen this way. As Jesus is taken away, the disciples are left behind, broken, confused, and afraid. The one they believed in, the one they followed, is now in chains, and for the first time, doubt begins to creep into their hearts. Did they misunderstand everything? Was this all leading to something else? Or is this truly the end? Meanwhile, Jesus is led through the dark streets, surrounded by men who see him as nothing more than a criminal. But even in chains, there is something about him that feels different, something that cannot be explained, something that makes even his enemies uneasy, because deep down, they know this is no ordinary man, and what they are about to do will change everything forever. As the night continues, the tension only grows stronger. Questions begin to rise, accusations are prepared, and somewhere in the distance, a trial is waiting. Not a fair one, not a just one, but one that has already decided its outcome before it even begins. And through it all, Jesus remains silent. Not because he has nothing to say, but because this silence is part of something much bigger. Something no one can stop anymore. The journey has begun, and there is no turning back now. The night grows colder, and with every step Jesus takes in chains, the weight of what is happening becomes heavier. The crowd that once followed him with hope is now replaced by shadows, whispers, and silent judgment. He is no longer seen as a teacher, but as a man already condemned. He is brought before Annas, a man of authority, power, and control. The kind of man who believes truth can be shaped, twisted, or even silenced. The room feels tense, filled with watching eyes, each one waiting for Jesus to break, to defend himself, to say something that can be used against him. But Jesus stands still. No fear, No anger, just calm. Annas begins the questioning, his voice sharp, calculated. He asks about the followers, about the teachings, about the influence Jesus has built. Every question is designed not to understand, but to trap, to find a reason, any reason, to declare him guilty. But Jesus does not respond the way they expect. There is no long defense, no desperate explanation. Instead, his answer is simple, direct, and powerful. He reminds them that everything he has said was said openly, in front of everyone, in the streets, in the temples, in the light, nothing hidden, nothing secret. And that truth makes them uncomfortable because they know he is right. For a moment, there is silence, a dangerous silence. And then it breaks. One of the guards, filled with anger, or maybe fear, steps forward and strikes Jesus. The sound echoes through the room, sharp and sudden. It is not just a blow to the face. It is the first act of violence in a chain of suffering that has only just begun. The tension shifts instantly. Some look away, some watch closely, but no one stops it. And still, Jesus does not react. No retaliation, no outrage, only quiet endurance. That silence again, louder than any protest. Outside in the courtyard, a different kind of battle is taking place. Not of strength, but of fear. Peter stands among strangers, trying to stay unnoticed, trying to understand what is happening inside. His heart is racing. His thoughts are scattered. He wants to be loyal. He wants to stay. But fear is slowly taking over. Then the question comes. Simple, direct. Weren't you with him? In that moment, everything inside Peter freezes. This is it. A choice. Stand with Jesus or protect himself. And he chooses fear. No, I don't know him. The words come out quickly, almost without thinking. But the moment they are spoken, something breaks inside him. Because deep down, he knows this is not who he wanted to be. But it doesn't stop there. The questions come again, and each time, Peter denies him. Stronger, louder, more desperate, as if trying to convince not just others, but himself. Inside, the interrogation continues. The pressure builds. The accusations grow, but the outcome feels already decided. They are not searching for truth anymore. They are building a case that will lead to only one conclusion. Jesus must be condemned. And as the night moves forward, two stories unfold at the same time, one of silent strength and one of human weakness, one of complete control and one of fear losing control. And both are painful to watch, because this is not just about what is happening to Jesus. It is about what is happening to everyone around him. Faith is being tested, loyalty is being broken, and fear is winning. As the first light of morning slowly approaches, the reality becomes impossible to ignore. This is no longer just an arrest. This is the beginning of something much darker, the kind of darkness that will push everyone to their limits. And the worst is still yet to come. The night is almost over, but the darkness has only grown deeper. What started as an arrest is now turning into something far more serious. The tension is no longer hidden. It is everywhere. In every glance, every whisper, every decision being made behind closed doors. Jesus is now taken before Caiaphas, the high priest. This is where things change. This is no longer questioning. This is judgment. A judgment that has already been decided long before Jesus even entered the room. The atmosphere is heavy, filled with powerful men who believe they are protecting the truth. But in reality, they are trying to protect their authority, because Jesus has become something dangerous to them. Not because he is guilty, but because people believe in him. And belief is something they cannot control. The council gathers, their faces serious, their minds already made up. They begin calling witnesses, one after another. Each one brings a different story, different accusations, different claims, but there is one problem. Nothing matches. The words don't align. The stories fall apart. The truth refuses to be twisted. And that only makes them more frustrated, because they don't need truth anymore. They need a reason to end this. Finally, Caiaphas himself steps forward. His patience is gone. His voice becomes sharper, more demanding. He looks directly at Jesus, no more games, no more waiting. He asks the question, the one question that changes everything. Are you the Messiah? The room falls silent. Every eye turns to Jesus. This is the moment. One answer can decide his fate. And Jesus speaks, not with fear, not with hesitation, but with certainty. You have said so. And from now on, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. The words hit like thunder. For a moment, no one moves, no one breathes, because they understand exactly what he just said. This is not just a claim, this is a declaration, and to them, it is unacceptable. Caiaphas reacts instantly. In anger, in outrage, in what he believes is righteousness, he tears his robes. The act is dramatic, powerful, final. He doesn't need more witnesses now. He doesn't need more evidence. In his eyes, the decision has been made. Blasphemy! The word spreads quickly through the room. And just like that, everything changes. The council agrees, voices rise, accusations become louder. The atmosphere turns aggressive, almost uncontrollable. The same men who were questioning before are now demanding punishment, demanding death. And Jesus stands in the middle of it all, completely still. No defense, no argument, because he already knows. This is how it must happen. What follows is even harder to watch. Respect disappears. Control fades. The men who claim to stand for righteousness begin to lose themselves in anger. Mockery begins. Insults follow, and then violence. They strike him. They blindfold him. They challenge him to prove himself, but he does nothing, because this is not about proving anything anymore. This is about enduring everything. Meanwhile, outside, the weight of betrayal is becoming unbearable. Judas is alone now. The noise of the crowd is gone, but the silence is worse, because now he is left with his thoughts. And the realization begins to hit him. This was never supposed to happen like this. He thought he could control it. He thought things would turn out differently. But now, seeing Jesus condemned, seeing the consequences of his actions, the guilt starts to consume him. Every second feels heavier. Every breath feels harder. I have sinned. The words come out broken, filled with regret, filled with pain. But it's too late. The choice has already been made. The damage already done. And no matter what he does now, he cannot undo it. Back inside, the final decision is clear. Jesus is guilty in their eyes, not because of proof, but because of who he is, because of what he represents, because of the truth he carries that they refuse to accept. The path is now set. There is no turning back, but there is one problem left. They do not have the power to carry out the final sentence. For that, they need Rome. And that means this story is about to grow even bigger, even more intense. Because now, Jesus will stand before a different kind of power, a power that doesn't care about beliefs, only control. And what happens next will decide everything. Morning finally arrives, but there is no relief in the light. Instead, it exposes everything. The fear, the anger, the injustice. All of it now stands clear, impossible to hide. What was decided in the darkness is now being carried into the open, where the final authority waits. Jesus is taken to Pontius Pilate, a man of power, a man of politics, a man who understands control better than truth. Unlike the others, Pilate is not driven by belief or hatred. He is driven by order, stability, and the fear of losing his position. The moment he sees Jesus, something feels different. This is not what he expected. There is no rebellion in front of him, no threat, no resistance, just a man, calm, silent, and strangely composed despite everything that has happened. Pilate begins the questioning, direct, focused. Are you the king of the Jews? It is a political question, a dangerous one, because if the answer is yes, it means rebellion against Rome, and rebellion must be crushed. But Jesus answers in the same way he always has, calm, controlled. You say that I am. Not a denial, not a confirmation, but something deeper, something that leaves Pilate uncertain, and that uncertainty begins to grow. Pilate looks at the accusations, he listens to the voices demanding punishment, but something doesn't add up. There is no real evidence, no clear crime, just anger and pressure. And Pilate understands one thing very clearly. This man is being pushed toward death, not because he is guilty, but because people want him gone. For a moment, Pilate tries to resist it. He looks for a way out, and he finds one. He sends Jesus to Herod Antipas, a different ruler, a different responsibility. If Herod makes the decision, then Pilate is no longer involved. But this is not an escape. This is just a delay. Because when Jesus stands before Herod, the situation only becomes more humiliating. Herod is not interested in truth. He is not interested in justice. He is interested in entertainment. He has heard about Jesus, the miracles, the stories, the power. And now, he wants to see it. He wants a performance. But Jesus gives him nothing. No miracle, no sign, no reaction, just silence. And that silence frustrates Herod. Because for someone used to control, being ignored is the greatest insult. So he responds the only way he knows how, with mockery. He dresses Jesus in a royal robe, not as respect, but as ridicule. A false king, a joke, a man to be laughed at, not feared. And then he sends him back to Pilate, back to the man who is trying to avoid making the final decision. But now, there is no escape left. Pilate sees it clearly now. Herod has made no accusation, no judgment, which means the responsibility returns right back to him. The pressure begins to build. The crowd is growing louder. Voices are rising, and Pilate knows this is no longer just about one man. This is about control over the people. If he releases Jesus, the crowd may turn against him. If he condemns Jesus, he will be punishing an innocent man. And this is the moment where everything shifts, because Pilate chooses the crowd. He remembers the tradition, a custom during Passover. One prisoner can be released, a chance to fix everything, a chance to avoid the wrong decision. He presents the choice, Jesus or Barabbas. One is innocent, the other, a known criminal. The answer should be obvious, but it isn't, because the crowd begins to shout, and what they shout changes everything. Release Barabbas! The words echo louder and louder, again and again, until it becomes impossible to ignore. Pilate is stunned. This was not supposed to happen. This was supposed to save the situation, but instead, it has made it worse. Now the choice is clear. Not truth, not justice, but survival. Pilate looks at Jesus one last time, and deep down, he knows. This man does not deserve death, but knowing the truth and acting on it are two different things. And Pilate does not choose truth. He steps back. He washes his hands, a symbolic act. I am innocent of this man's blood. But the reality is, he is not. The order is given. Jesus will be scourged, mocked, beaten, and prepared for crucifixion. And just like that, the final path is set. There is no more delay, no more questioning, no more chances, only suffering remains. And what is coming next will be the most painful part of this journey, because now the sacrifice truly begins. Now, there is no stopping it. The moment Pilate gives the order, everything begins to move faster. The decisions are done, the judgment is sealed, and what remains is the suffering that no one can escape anymore. Jesus is taken away by the soldiers, not as a man, but as someone already broken in their eyes. The beating begins, relentless, brutal, without mercy. Each strike is meant to weaken him, to break him, to turn him into a warning for anyone who would dare challenge power again. But what makes this moment even more painful is not just the physical suffering, it is the silence. Jesus does not fight back. He does not beg. He does not even defend himself. And that silence becomes heavier with every blow, because it forces everyone watching to face something they don't understand. Why is he not resisting? Why is he accepting this? The soldiers grow more aggressive. Mockery turns into cruelty. They place a crown of thorns on his head, pressing it down without care. They give him a robe, not to honor him, but to humiliate him. "King of the Jews," they say, laughing. But behind the laughter, there is something else. Discomfort. Because even now, even after everything, there is still something about him that feels unbreakable. And that unsettles them. After the torture comes the walk. The final walk. Jesus is forced to carry the cross, the very thing that will be used to end his life. Step by step, he moves forward, weak, wounded, exhausted. The weight is too much, but the journey cannot stop. The crowd watches, some with anger, some with curiosity, some with pain, because now the reality is impossible to ignore. This is not just punishment, this is execution. And along the way, something unexpected happens. Jesus stumbles. The strength in his body begins to fade. The weight becomes unbearable. And for a moment, it feels like he might not make it to the end. So the soldiers force someone else to step in. Simon of Cyrene, a man pulled from the crowd, a man who did not choose this, but is now part of it. He helps carry the cross, walking beside Jesus, sharing a burden that no one else could understand. And finally, they reach the place. Golgotha, the place of the skull, the place where everything ends, or at least, where it seems to end. Jesus is offered a drink, something to ease the pain, but he refuses, because this is not a moment to escape suffering. This is a moment to face it completely. And then it happens. The crucifixion, nails driven, hands and feet fixed to the cross. Every movement becomes pain. Every breath becomes a struggle. And still, he says nothing to defend himself. Above him, the words are written. Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. What was meant as mockery now stands as truth. Beside him, two criminals hang, one filled with anger, mocking him, the other filled with realization. And in one of the most powerful moments, even now, even in this suffering, Jesus speaks, not with anger, not with judgment, but with mercy. Today, you will be with me in paradise. Even here, he is giving hope. Even here, he is saving. Below the cross, the few who remained stand in silence. John, Mary, Mary Magdalene, watching, helpless, heartbroken. This is the moment they feared, the moment they never believed would actually come. And yet, here it is. As time passes, something begins to change. The sky darkens, the atmosphere shifts. It feels as if the world itself is reacting, as if creation cannot bear what is happening.